At the outset of the mayoral campaign, we assigned 2 WGBH Radio reporters to follow each of the candidates out on the stump. Ann Mostu was assigned to John Connolly's campaign for the last several weeks, and Sarah Birnbaum has been on the trail with Marty Walsh. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you, Emily.
You each got a really up-close and personal look at both of these men because you were with them sometimes all day long. And I thought, for the benefit of people who don't have that kind of personal contact, if you could just kind of bring us to some of the moments that you thought particularly stood out.
Yeah, sure. The moment that stands out the most to me was watching Connolly in a classroom with 6th graders, and that happened several weeks ago. He's been talking about how he's the education mayor. He would be the education mayor. He was a teacher, but that was only for 4 years after college. He's been a lawyer ever since, and so that's about 15 years of no teaching. So it's really interesting to watch him interact with children, and he was very authoritative and fatherly, asked them lots of questions, and they asked him lots of questions, but it was a successful interaction, and it was enlightening to me because I was doing a story on education, his platform.
So you could actually see him doing that.
Yeah.
And what about you, Sarah? We remarked when we put a picture of you, Marty Walsh looking at a map of the city of Boston. It was stunning to us how much he knew.
Yes, that was the moment that stuck out the most for me. I laid out this map in front of him, and he went over it and was talking about which areas would be good for development. And his grasp of the different areas was really remarkable, especially given that he is a state representative and not a city councilor, but he really knew what he was talking about in various
circled
areas.
Everything. I do this here and that there.
Exactly. Exactly. And he's not known as the most articulate candidate, but with a map in front of him, it felt very competent.
We should credit that John Connolly was actually pretty good to it too. But you had a kind of a humorous moment one day out on the campaign trail too.
Right, in Roxbury, in Dudley Square, we were walking, and then we stopped to do an interview on a street corner. And he was greeting everyone who walked by on the sidewalk, but there was a moment where a car pulled up and yelled, "Hey, Marty Walsh, I'm going to vote for you." And John Connolly walked over to the car and graciously explained who he was. He had a sense of humor about it. But to me, it was representative of the challenge that both candidates faced, being two white Irish guys walking through Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan. In many cases, people just couldn't tell the difference between them.
Yeah. Well, of course, Marty Walsh has had the backing of Charlotte Golar-Ritchie, John Barrows, Felix Arroyo, and you saw some interaction there.
I did. A big part of this campaign has been endorsements from communities of color, the leadership in communities of color, and that trifecta of endorsers. And I think what really remains to be seen tonight is how well they got out the vote for Marty Walsh, and if they really will serve as an entree into the different communities that they represent.
Yeah, and what difference that those endorsements made, and whether that's going to...
Exactly, and it's probably going to be different for each endorser. So the Cape Verdean community tends to vote in a block. So in that way, perhaps John Barrows' endorsement is worth more than, let's say, Charlotte Golar-Ritchie's endorsement. But that remains to be seen.
So, Anne, I mean, people are trying to kind of characterize the personalities here, and one of the things people have said about John Connolly is that he's a little aloof. Do you think that's fair?
I don't think that's fair. No, I wouldn't call him aloof. I would call him friendly, and he's got, again, sort of this paternal style to him. He definitely was walking up to almost everybody on every street, introducing himself everywhere he went. And as a reporter, it was very easy to get one-on-one time with him. He was very friendly to me and to the other reporters. I think he's tired, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's got those 3 little babies, 3 little kids.
Right. I think it's really not fair to say aloof when he's had a newborn. His wife had a baby in mid-August, just before the preliminary. He's understandably exhausted.
Yeah. I can see that. I was over at his house one morning at 6 a.m. to do the at home, and he looked tired.
Yeah.
So, then you had some final thoughts about Marty Walsh, too?
I just think that where Marty Walsh really shines is in his one-on-one conversations. When I was interviewing him, he makes direct eye contact, he answers your questions in full. It feels very intimate, almost like Bill Clinton, is renowned for doing that type of thing. And I think he has a well-earned reputation, Marty Walsh does, as an affable guy, a guy I'd like to have a beer with because of those personal interactions.
And that's one of the things their campaign is touting, too. They're telling me this story about they were trying to sweep away some homeless guy in front of some event, and he was still there when Marty arrived, and Marty went right over to him and said, "I'm Marty Walsh, I'm running for mayor, I'd like to have your vote." You know, rather than shoo the guy away, he was courting him.
Yeah, that's remarkable.
Well, nice job, you two.
Thank you.
Sarah Birnbaum and Mastu. Thanks so much.